In the opulent presidential suite of the Westwood Hotel, the air was thick with tension, a suffocating weight that pressed against the chests of everyone present. For 3 grueling days, the executives from Pinnacle Investments had been locked in a high-stakes dance with Sheikh Al-Farsi and his team from the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Fund. The $4.8 billion deal, a transformative vision to reshape 5 city blocks of Manhattan into a beacon of sustainable urban development, teetered on the brink of collapse. Each failed attempt at communication deepened the frustration, carving lines of exhaustion into the faces of Pinnacle's seasoned negotiators. The room, with its polished mahogany table and floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering Manhattan skyline, felt less like a venue for progress and more like a gilded cage. James Wilson, Pinnacle's CEO, stood at the head of the table, his jaw tight, his usually commanding presence fraying at the edges. He had just proposed what he believed was a fair compromise on the profit-sharing structure, his voice steady but tinged with desperation. 3 months of relentless preparation, millions in legal fees, and the weight of his company's future rested on this moment. But Sheikh Al-Farsi, his Oxford-educated English usually crisp and flawless, suddenly erupted into rapid-fire Arabic. His words were sharp, laced with agitation, his hands slicing through the air as he addressed his advisors, deliberately excluding the Americans. The shift was jarring, like a door slamming shut. Wilson's stomach churned as he watched the deal slipping through his fingers, his heart pounding with the sinking realization that a fundamental misunderstanding was unraveling everything. The 2 translators Pinnacle had hired, diplomats with impeccable resumes, exchanged uneasy glances, their pens hovering uncertainly over their notepads. They struggled to parse the Sheikh's Northern Gulf dialect, its cadence and financial jargon slipping through their grasp like sand. Wilson's chest tightened further, a knot of dread forming as he saw the Sheikh's advisors lean in, their murmurs growing heated. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, as the dream of a groundbreaking development began to dissolve. Then, a voice cut through the chaos, clear and confident, carrying the weight of authority no one expected. "If I may, Your Excellency," came the words in flawless Arabic, not from the translators or executives, but from the sideboard where Maria Alvarez stood. Dressed in the hotel's understated black and white housekeeping uniform, she had been invisible, quietly refilling coffee cups and clearing plates. Now, every head in the room swiveled toward her, shock rippling through the suite like a sudden gust of wind. The silence that followed was deafening, a collective intake of breath that seemed to hold the room in stasis. Maria stood with serene composure, her posture straight, her dark eyes steady as they met the Sheikh's. Her voice, though soft, carried a quiet power, each syllable in his native tongue resonating with precision. Sheikh Al-Farsi's expression shifted from irritation to astonishment, his brows lifting as he leaned forward, intrigued. His advisors, usually stoic, stared openly, their mouths slightly agape. Wilson's right-hand man, Richard Turner, half rose from his chair, his face a mix of confusion and alarm, as if protocol itself had been upended. But Wilson, his heart still racing, placed a restraining hand on Turner's arm, a spark of curiosity overriding his initial panic. Something about Maria's calm authority held him in place. "You speak the Northern Gulf dialect?" Sheikh Al-Farsi asked in Arabic, his tone a blend of surprise and wary curiosity, as if testing her. "Yes, Your Excellency," Maria replied, her voice unwavering. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding regarding the structural financing terms. If I understood correctly, your concern lies with the contingency clause in Section 4.3, which could potentially dilute the fund's voting rights if certain benchmarks aren't met." The Sheikh's eyes narrowed, studying her with a mix of skepticism and fascination. "And you understand the technical aspects of this agreement?" Maria nodded, her expression respectful but resolute. "I do, Your Excellency. The translations provided have been imprecise, particularly around the financial mechanisms. What Mr. Wilson intended was that the benchmarks would be mutually agreed upon, ensuring equal protection for both parties." The room seemed to hold its breath. Wilson, unable to follow the Arabic but sensing the shift in the Sheikh's demeanor, felt a flicker of hope ignite in his chest. His team, however, exchanged bewildered glances, their polished confidence shaken by the surreal turn of events. Turner's mouth opened, then closed, as he struggled to process the idea that a hotel maid was navigating the intricacies of a multi-billion-dollar deal. Sheikh Al-Farsi leaned forward, his curiosity now fully piqued. "How do you come to speak our dialect so well, and possess such specific knowledge of this agreement?" Maria's response was steady, her words carrying the weight of a life shaped by resilience. "I hold a master's degree in international finance from NYU, specializing in Middle Eastern investment structures. I worked for 3 years at the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority under Dr. Faisal Rahman before returning to the US for family reasons. As for the language, I lived in Sharjah from ages 8 to 17, where my father was an engineer with ADNOC." A murmur passed through the Sheikh's team. One of his advisors leaned in, whispering, and recognition dawned on the Sheikh's face. "You were on the Al Maria Island development team," he said, his tone more statement than question. "Your models for integrated payment structures were quite innovative." Maria inclined her head, a humble acknowledgement of the praise. "That's very kind of you to remember, Your Excellency." Wilson, his mind reeling, finally found his voice, though it trembled slightly with disbelief. "Ms. Excuse me, do you work for this hotel?" Maria turned to him, switching effortlessly to English, her tone calm but firm. "Yes, Mr. Wilson. I'm funding my PhD at Columbia. The flexible hours allow me to attend classes while supporting my family." Turner, still grappling with the absurdity of the moment, blurted, "You understand the entirety of our negotiation? The technical details?" Maria's gaze was steady, unflinching. "I've been servicing this suite for 3 days, Mr. Turner. I've heard every detail of the proposed agreement, and there's a significant translation error regarding the contingency clauses that's causing unnecessary concern for His Excellency and his team." Sheikh Al-Farsi, who had been watching the exchange with keen interest, addressed Wilson directly, his voice carrying a newfound respect. "Your translators, while skilled in standard Arabic, lack the specific financial vocabulary and cultural context we require. This young woman, however, understands both." Wilson's heart raced as he processed the surreal pivot. The deal that had consumed his every waking thought, the one that would define his legacy, now rested in the hands of a woman he hadn't even noticed until she spoke. Swallowing his pride, he said carefully, "Ms. Alvarez, would you be willing to assist us in clarifying these misunderstandings?" Before Maria could respond, Turner leaned in, his voice a harsh whisper. "James, this is absurd. We have professional translators. We can't just—" "Your translators are competent," Sheikh Al-Farsi interrupted, his tone sharp as he overheard Turner's objection. "But they miss the nuances critical to this deal." He turned to Maria, his expression softening. "Ms. Alvarez, would you be comfortable serving as an intermediary? With appropriate compensation, of course." Maria glanced at her simple wristwatch, a practical contrast to the room's extravagance. "I can stay for another hour before my evening class, Your Excellency. After that, I'd need to make arrangements with hotel management." Wilson nodded decisively, his voice steadier now. "I'll speak with the hotel manager personally. Pinnacle will compensate both you and the hotel appropriately." He paused, then added, his tone softer, "That is, if you're willing to help us." "I'd be happy to facilitate clearer communication," Maria replied, her diplomacy masking the weight of the moment. What followed was a transformation unlike anything the suite had seen. Maria stepped away from the sideboard, abandoning her role as the invisible server, and took a seat at the conference table. With quiet authority, she began untangling the knots of misunderstanding, her voice weaving effortlessly between Arabic and English. She explained cultural nuances to Wilson's team, her words dispelling the fog of confusion that had plagued them for days. To the Sheikh, she clarified American corporate governance principles, framing them in ways that resonated with Gulf business values. Her presence was a bridge, steady and unyielding, spanning the chasm that had threatened to swallow the deal. As she spoke, the room's atmosphere shifted. The Sheikh's advisors, once rigid with skepticism, began to nod, their pens moving swiftly across their notes. Wilson's team, initially stunned, leaned in, their tension easing as clarity replaced chaos. Maria's ability to distill complex financial concepts into terms both sides could grasp was nothing short of alchemy. By the time her hour was up, the major sticking points had dissolved, replaced by a tentative framework that satisfied both parties. Maria rose, smoothing her uniform. I need to leave for my class now. Will there be anything else? Sheikh Al-Farsi stood, a rare gesture of respect that sent a ripple of surprise through the room. You have provided an invaluable service, Ms. Alvarez. I'd be interested in continuing this discussion tomorrow, if your schedule permits. I have classes until 2 p.m., Maria replied. I could return after that. Wilson, his voice steadier now, seized the moment. Ms. Alvarez, would you consider a consulting arrangement with Pinnacle for the duration of these negotiations? We'd compensate you at the standard rate for financial advisory services. Maria paused, her expression thoughtful. I'd need to arrange coverage for my hotel shifts. I support my mother and sister, so I can't simply leave my job. We'll take care of that, Wilson assured her, a note of gratitude in his voice. And the fee will reflect your expertise. As Maria left for her class, the room fell silent, the weight of what had just transpired settling over everyone. Sheikh Al-Farsi broke the quiet, his tone wry. You Americans never cease to surprise me. You bring translators who miss our concerns, while the woman serving coffee understands both our dialect and our financial principles. Wilson managed a sheepish smile, his earlier arrogance replaced by humility. I assure you, Sheikh, we had no idea she was so qualified. The Sheikh's eyes gleamed with quiet amusement. In my country, we say, judge the well by the water, not the ornaments around it. The next morning, Maria returned at precisely 2:15 p.m., no longer in her housekeeping uniform but in a modest navy suit that spoke of quiet professionalism. She carried a slim leather portfolio, her demeanor unchanged despite the shift in context. The hotel manager, when approached by Wilson, had been effusive. Ms. Alvarez is one of our best, he'd said. She's been with us for 2 years, balancing her studies. We always knew she was overqualified, but finance jobs are hard to come by, especially for someone like her. The unspoken implication lingered, for a young Latina woman navigating a world of closed doors and high barriers. Wilson had nodded, a pang of guilt settling in his chest as he realized how easily he'd overlooked her. At the conference table, Maria was greeted by Sheikh Al-Farsi with the respect reserved for a peer. Ms. Alvarez, he said, I had my team review your work from Medea. Your paper on ESG metrics in sovereign wealth fund strategies was remarkable. Thank you, Your Excellency, Maria replied, her voice steady but warm. That was part of my master's thesis. Turner, still grappling with the shift, couldn't resist. How does someone with your qualifications end up, he hesitated, gesturing vaguely, cleaning hotel rooms. Maria finished, her tone devoid of bitterness. The 2008 crisis wiped out many finance jobs when I finished my master's. After my father's sudden death, I needed to support my mother and sister. Hospitality offered flexibility to pursue my PhD while meeting my responsibilities. Her words landed like a quiet rebuke, exposing the fragility of the systems these men navigated with ease. Sheikh Al-Farsi nodded, his expression thoughtful. Life takes unexpected turns. The measure of a person is how they carry themselves through them. Over the next 2 days, Maria's contributions went beyond translation. She proposed compromise language that balanced the fund's governance concerns with Pinnacle's performance needs, her insights informed by both Western finance and Gulf investment principles. Her presence transformed the negotiation into a collaboration, the suite no longer a battleground but a space of shared purpose. By the 3rd day, the agreement was ready for preliminary signatures, a triumph born from the ashes of near failure. As the pen scratched across the documents, Maria sat quietly, her role complete. The consulting fee Pinnacle had arranged, more than 6 months of her hotel wages, would ease her financial burdens, letting her focus on her dissertation. Sheikh Al-Farsi approached her as the meeting ended, his voice warm. "Ms. Alvarez, our fund is launching a sustainability division in New York. We need someone who understands both our approach and Western markets. Would you consider discussing a role with us after your doctorate?" Maria's eyes widened briefly, a rare crack in her composure. "I'd be honored, Your Excellency." Wilson, overhearing, chimed in with a wry smile. "I hope you'll consider Pinnacle as well, Ms. Alvarez. We could use your expertise." Maria's response was diplomatic, her poise unshaken. "I appreciate both opportunities. My focus is completing my doctorate, but I'd welcome further discussions." As the group dispersed, Wilson found himself alone with Maria in the elevator. The silence was heavy until he spoke, his voice raw with vulnerability. "Ms. Alvarez, I owe you an apology. Not just for missing your capabilities, but for not seeing you at all until you were useful to me." Maria met his gaze, her expression thoughtful but kind. "The world is full of invisible people, Mr. Wilson. The woman who cleans your office, the man who delivers your packages, the barista who knows your order. They all have stories, dreams, capabilities you might never suspect." She paused as the elevator doors opened. "Perhaps the real opportunity here isn't just this deal, but a chance to see the world differently." 6 months later, at the groundbreaking ceremony for the Manhattan Sustainable Development Project, the press lauded the partnership between Pinnacle and the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Fund. Photos captured Wilson and Sheikh Al-Farsi shaking hands, the city's skyline a backdrop to their shared vision. Unmentioned was the story of Maria Alvarez, now Dr. Alvarez, who had defended her dissertation and accepted a role as Director of Sustainability Integration for the joint venture. Her office, in the same building where she once served coffee, was a testament to her journey. On her first day, she found a small package on her desk, containing an elegant pen engraved with Arabic calligraphy. The note, in Sheikh Al-Farsi's hand, read, "To water from the well, not ornaments. May you continue to surprise those wise enough to see your true value." Maria placed the pen on her desk, a quiet reminder of the moment she stepped from the shadows, her voice silencing a room and rewriting her future. As she prepared for her first executive meeting, she thought of the others in the building, cleaning rooms, emptying bins, serving coffee, each with their own unseen stories, waiting for the chance to be truly seen.